Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on this Wednesday night. Lovely to have you guys hanging out here with us off of another day of Titans minicamp. We have Dennard Wilson comments to discuss, which should be music to every Titans fan's ears, talking about the corner play in particular. We will get to that later on in the program. It is Harold Landry's birthday, and so in honor of that, we're going to ask you guys the question, what would you get Harold Landry for his birthday? I'm going to have a football answer. You don't necessarily have to, but I think you may like the vibe that I have when we get to a little birthday celebration in the second segment. Rising and falling is how we end the show because it's a Wednesday, and that's what we do. So make sure you have your stock up, stock down candidates by the time we put a bow on this bad boy. Before we can end the show, we have to start the show. Before we start the show, you need to share the show. Yes, thank you for singing along or playing along at home. Share this broadcast wherever you are hanging out with us on Twitter, Facebook Live, YouTube, and Twitch. If you're hanging out on Twitter, please retweet the show. It's in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. If you are on Facebook Live, you can share. You can share now to public. That's in the bottom left. And if you're on YouTube or Twitch, like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you haven't, if you've done so already, or if you haven't done so already, I think that there is going to be a lot of you who enjoy this particular evening's discussion with Dennard Wilson because it's been an issue or been about an issue that's been plaguing you for years. Let's go ahead and do it. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time from the Zen Sports Studios. I'm your host, Buck Rising. Hello, if you're new to the show. And I'm proud, as always, to be presented to you by Zen Sports. Plug in the promo code ATOZTN. Get up to $100 on your no-danger first wager. ZenSports.com is where you go for more information. Today, TrueMav Fitness. Your first workout is free as a Middle Tennessee resident at TrueMavFitness.com. Go to TrueMav Fitness for the best workout in Middle Tennessee. And Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer, where right now, for the month of June, they are giving you $8,000 in bonus cash when you purchase a 2024 Expedition. It is Expedition month at Two Rivers Ford. Go test drive one of their incredible vehicles or check out their inventory online at tworiversford.com today. If you have ever watched Titans defensive back play, if you've ever watched a Titans defensive back stand 7 yards off on a 3rd and 6, you want to hear from Dennard Wilson because we have been talking about cornerbacks and how far off the receiver that they're playing and how far behind the line of scrimmage that they're playing, how far behind the line to gain that they've been playing, basically for, I don't know, since 2020. It feels like that's been a discussion around Titans defensive backs as of late or in the last couple of years, and that has been one of the things like injury, like left tackle play that has made you guys, and, you know, myself included, yank your hair out when you're watching this football team play because it just seems like it's such an easy situation to correct. Now, I'm sure it's not as simple as the rest of us would have wanted to make it with the lack of talent that they have had in the cornerback room in the last couple of years because they are significantly better this year in 2024 with L'Jarius Sneed, with Cheeto Awuzie, and Roger McCreary, and Jarvis Brownlee Jr. as their 1, 2, 3, 4 corner depth to date. But when you look at the Titans and how they've played defense consistently, whether they've had talent or not had talent, they have played 5 or 6 yards off the receiver like it's college, and they're scared to let the receiver get behind them because they don't have the speed to keep up. That's why corners don't press in college, why you don't see a lot of college defensive coordinators having their guys press up on the wide receiver, understanding that the hash marks are different, the geography is different in the college game, so it's easier to get put on an island in college. You understand that the highest level speed, you're not going to be able to keep up with most college cornerbacks unless, you know, you're the top 1% of the 1% that's going to the NFL draft. So you do play a lot of off coverage in college, and that was a weird trend to see the Titans continue unless they just flat out didn't believe that they had the horsepower to keep up, which is probably true with Christian Fulton and Roger McCreary being your two best corners at any given moment. McCreary's been solid. Fulton's last 2 years were objectively bad. And when you get down to the Trey Averys of the world, you're just trying to keep the thing afloat for the better part of 60 minutes of football. At least that's what it's felt like in the last couple of years. Vidal Harris says BVS, talking about a bit that we do on the radio show called battered Vols syndrome for Tennessee fans who just will not ever have a full belief in their situation because Tennessee fans have been tormented for many, many years. BTS is how I would describe battered Titan syndrome, specific to the cornerback play. BTS with a side note specific to corners. Anyway, for Dennard Wilson, we talked to him today. We did not talk to any of the corners today, but we did talk to Dennard Wilson today about a variety of different subjects, and in particular, cornerback play and what the philosophical approach will be to playing press coverage in the NFL when it's as critical a part of the game almost as pass rushers. Corners, well, I'll let you hear from Dennard Wilson here in just a second, and then I'll explain my logic to you on why I think corners are as important as edge rushers in today's NFL. The Two Rivers Ford take that we'll start with is what's been the best Dennard Wilson quote this offseason? Because he's given a bunch, but this may be your favorite one relative to how it is that your football team stands to play. So what's been your favorite Dennard Wilson quote so far in the 2 months? It's been longer than 2 months, damn near closer to 4 months. But in the, let's say, 3.5, 4 months that Dennard Wilson's been your DC, what's been your favorite Dennard Wilson quote? We'll get into it in the comment section on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch right after I remind you that the Primetime program and your Two Rivers Ford take is made possible by the South's most trusted Ford dealer. That's Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com, the best in the business. And also this month, it is the Summer Expedition Sale at Two Rivers Ford. You can save $8,000 on 2024 Ford Expeditions, $3,000 in retail customer cash, plus $5,000 in dealer discounts at Two Rivers Ford. $8,000 for you to get an Expedition of your own at Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer, online at tworiversford.com. What's been your favorite Dennard Wilson quote of the offseason? Stephen King just says, yes, you'll have to be more specific. We want to dictate how the offense calls plays, says Curator, which is, a pretty standard line from a defensive coordinator. And I'm surprised to not see more variety in here because your defensive coordinator has been all manner of quotable in the last couple of months. First and foremost, when he got hired here, or when his first introduction happened, he talked about a former, I believe it's a World War II general, if I'm not mistaken, in General George Patton, which is not how I thought the introductory press conference with the defensive coordinator would go, but I think a lot of Titans fans loved what they heard from the guy.
I learned this a long time ago. General George Patton said this: nobody ever defended anything successful. You're going to attack and attack some more. We're going to be attacking defense. We're going to be violent in our approach. All right, we're going to be smart. We're going to be intelligent. We're never going to compromise for competing. And that's the style of brand of football that we're going to play around here.
Quoting General George Patton is one of my favorites. That's his introductory press conference, talking alongside head coach Brian Callahan about what their defensive philosophy and their defensive approach would be. Then you talk about how he describes the players and what he's looking for in players. This courtesy of the Green Light podcast with Chris Long.
Acronym now. DAWG, D-A-W-G, disciplined assholes with grit. Is he like pretty much on top of the list there?
He's the prototypical one. How many corners do you find that can run, that can cover, and he's going to line up against the best receivers in the National Football League? Like, you watch him in Kansas City, it doesn't matter who he's going against, and he's going to compete. You might get him, but he's coming back at you even harder. Being able to get him, and even Cheeto as well, he's another corner that's aggressive. A tough-minded guy. So when you line up against receivers in the league, you got guys that's going to battle, that's not going to waver. They're not going to be afraid of the competition. And that allows you to have that aggressive mindset. So I'm excited about L'Jarius. He's a hell of a guy. He's very smart. He takes coaching, and he's had a lot of success. 2 years in a row, he got me out the playoffs and obviously in the Super Bowl.
That's right.
It's good to get him on my team.
He made some big plays down the stretch. Is there one play that when you watched him make it over the last year or two where you're like, boy, it'd be nice to coach that guy?
It's the play in the AFC championship game last year when Zay Flowers reaches out on the goal line, and you see a DB aggressively attack the ball, and it wasn't just good enough to tackle a guy. He got the ball off of him. In hindsight, if you look back at it, if we score that touchdown, maybe the momentum was kind of on our side, right?
I agree.
He deflated the momentum with that one play. That's what mattered, and he made a hell of a play that it changed the trajectory of the game.
So that is Dennard Wilson, the Titans defensive coordinator, on the Greenlight podcast with Chris Long, talking about dog, disciplined assholes with grit. And that is the kind of player that they are looking for. So those have been a couple of my favorite Dennard Wilson quotes, but I'm going to play you my favorite to date, or what should be your favorite to date, here in just a second. That was given today at a press conference, right after I remind you that the primetime program is presented by Zen Sports. Download the app, plug in the promo code ATOZTN. Get up to $100 on your no danger first wager in the Zen Sports app. Terms and conditions do apply. Gambling problem, call 1-800-889-9789. Must be 21 plus and in the state of Tennessee to bet online at zensports.com. And if you have your VIP play, or if you think your play qualifies for VIP consideration, go to zensports.com/VIP. Poipel says, my second favorite book, talking about the art of war. A lot of people talking about their excitement with Dennard Wilson. Vidal says, if the defense is as intense as Dennard, I'm excited. Also excited to see what he's learned from his NFL tenure and how he implements it. I did a good interview with Rashad Weaver. What was that? I guess it aired today on the radio show, but we taped it yesterday. By the way, Tony Pollard, Titans running back, on the radio show tomorrow. We taped that interview today after practice, and then tomorrow I'll have more interviews that I'm taping, and we'll probably air those for you on Friday on the radio show, or we may do something with the 615 sessions as well. I'll see if I can't snag 2 more players before mandatory minicamp ends on Thursday. But there is a lot to like about at least Dennard Wilson, his approach, his demeanor, his intensity. And in talking to Weaver, Weaver and I were going back and forth on a couple of things. And I said, are you surprised that this is Dennard Wilson's first defensive coordinator job? And you'll hear a part of it in this clip from the Weaver interview. And by the way, you can check it out, the full interview, on my radio show's podcast, which is the Buck Rising Show, wherever you get your podcasts, to hear the full interview with Rashad Weaver and to hear Tony Pollard tomorrow. But, we talked about dog with Weaver, and then we talked about the idea that this is Dennard Wilson's first time being a defensive coordinator in this league.
There have been a lot of people in the league who were surprised it took him this long to get a defensive coordinator job. And it sounds like so far that opportunity that he got here, you guys are seeing the dividends of being his first opportunity to get control of an entire defense.
Absolutely. I mean, if you asked me, I would assume he'd been a DC multiple times before. It was seamless for him. And he really, he has control of the room as it should be as a DC. And I think it's all coming together great quickly, honestly.
Discipline asshole with grit.
Discipline assholes with grit.
Dogs. When you hear that, how do you try to embody that?
I think it's pushing the line as far as you can without hurting the team. So, asshole, dickhead, whatever you want to call it, I'm going to call it that. I think it's playing within your framework and pushing the other team and yourself to the edge, but not getting penalties and hurting the team. So it's just walking that line of balance. And I mean, cut on the tape, I think that one of the best guys in the NFL doing it is Jeff. I mean, that guy can bark up any tree and piss anybody off without getting flags and still impacting the game in a positive way. And I think that's what it's all about. And, not everybody's going to be like Jeff. Everyone has a different, who they are and how they go about the game. But I think within yourself, if you can really push those other guys that's lined up against them and get in their head without causing hurt to the team, it's going to pay off for everybody, honestly.
But you're still a.
So that is part of our interview with Rashad Weaver that aired on the radio show today. You can check out the full interview, like I said, in the podcast feed of the radio show. It's called The Buck Rising Show. All right. So as we look at Dennard Wilson, what has been your favorite Dennard Wilson quote to date? B. Frent says, I think we have the best defensive coordinator in the NFL, which is crazy because this is his first time being a defensive coordinator, so that's kind of wild. William Jones says, Officer Buck with the Ray-Bans. Yes, indeed. But I think that if you want authoritative figures, then Dennard Wilson, you could do a lot worse, especially when you hear him talk about your quarterback play.
Kind of heard one player after another talk about aggressive in terms of your philosophy. How do you think quantify that maybe in a deep, you know, how would the average Joe expect things to be different when it's going to be more aggressive?
Well, like I say, aggressiveness doesn't have to be sending more people. It's the mindset in which you play. Aggressiveness is, if I'm on the line of scrimmage, I'm knocking guys back. I'm setting edges violently. I'm building a wall up front with the D linemen. It's aggressiveness is your linebackers reading your keys and coming downhill. And when they come downhill, you know, they're coming down with the intentions to run through people and knock running backs backwards. Aggressiveness is running from sideline to sideline and swarming the ball and defending every blade of grass. And then when you have that attitude and you play that way, and then when you add smart pressures or smart decisions, now you start to become more multiple. But to me, aggressiveness is a mindset. It's the way you go about your life on a daily basis. It's like this. Guys that are aggressive, you know, they normally don't fear failure. And, you know, I learned this a long time ago. It's false evidence appearing real. So if I don't fear failure and I can line up and play and read my keys and look at the right thing, I'm going to be aggressive in what I do.
Aggressiveness, actually, we see that with the corners. You know, they're on the line of scrimmage, creating that chatter. How intentional is that for you to have those guys?
It's very intentional for me. For me, I believe press or less. Like, I want them to line up, and I want them to be in front of receivers and challenge the receivers. Ultimately, in this game, if you get free access, it's easy for the quarterbacks to complete balls. So what I do is I want to create hesitation at the line of scrimmage and make them earn it the hard way. Make them earn it, throw the 50-50 ball, but everything else we're going to challenge.
How do you approach that? Do you?
So that's Dennard Wilson speaking earlier today about earning it and how he approaches specific to cornerback play, the way that this is going to be coached, the way that it's going to be implemented. You're going to make them earn it. Stephen King says the man's going to be a head coach next year. Well, so we did a show to that effect. I don't know. I felt like a month ago, the last time the first time that I had this thought and posed this question to you guys in some form or fashion. Some of you may have been watching that show or seeing that show or watched that show after the fact at the time. But the amount of people that talked to me when Dennard Wilson got hired around the league about how shocked they were that this was Dennard Wilson, that Dennard Wilson was just now, after so many years and having several years of experience as a defensive backs coach, as a defensive quality control coach, having been a player, of course, a defensive back in his college and professional career. The amount of people around the league that were surprised that this is his first defensive coordinator opportunity. This was a big cycle for defensive head coaches. I believe that the majority of openings around the NFL this year, except for the Titans, and I want to say one other, the Panthers, Dave Canales, the former Bucks OC, getting hired by the Panthers. I'm pretty sure that those were the only two offensive-minded head coach hires in this cycle, and the rest were defensive. I may be forgetting one off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure it was that kind of lopsided. So the idea that defensive-minded head coaches aren't still viable in the league, well, the league just told you that is not, in fact, the case. Now, how long they end up lasting, like Mike Vrabel getting 6 years, pretty good run for a defensive-minded head coach in today's NFL. But I would say that Dennard Wilson, should he be successful here, should the Titans be successful here, and the defense be a part of it. The offense is going to be the primary driver, as it should be, right? This is the thing. That's the thing that most needs to be corrected. But the defense has some flaws that they could afford to clean up. And if Dennard Wilson finds a way to get this group to limit the explosive plays that the Titans have really struggled with, like I said, basically since 2020, in how often they give up 3rd and 6+ when they get the defense or when they get the offense into a favorable situation on 1st and 2nd down, the amount of times that they give up 3rd and 6+ over the last 4 years has been mind-numbing for you guys, I'm sure. So if Dennard Wilson is the guy to fix that, I don't know that he's a head coach next year, but I don't think it would be too much longer after that, especially with the way that he presents himself, the way that he carries himself, and how he will interview for a job. There's a reason that he was one of the hottest commodities on the coaching market, and that I believe there was 4 or 5 teams that were interested in at least interviewing Dennard Wilson this cycle. Green Bay and Los Angeles for sure, as 2 of them before they made other decisions. And Dennard Wilson joined his friend and colleague, Rand Carthon, on Brian Callahan's staff. And you see why the thing works so well the way that it does. A to Z Sports Prime Time. Well, the question that I'm going to ask you before I tell you who the Primetime Show is made possible by, it's Harold Landry's 28th birthday today. So very happy birthday to Harold Landry. But the question that I'm going to ask you is, what would you get Harold for his 28th birthday? I'm going to give you a football answer. You don't have to give me one. Try to keep it clean. God knows what you guys are going to come up with. But what would you get Harold Landry for his 28th birthday? We'll get to that here in just a second, right after I remind you that the Primetime Show is made possible by TrueMav Fitness in the Gulch. Your first workout is free as a Middle Tennessee resident. No workout ever recycled or repeated. That's why TrueMav goes above and beyond. And in fact, TrueMav has an awesome thing going on Friday. If you're here in Middle Tennessee, if you are somebody who is local to the Nashville area and you've been involved in the CMA Fest fun, Worth Campbell, our buddy at TrueMav Fitness, is coaching the Fitness at CMA Fest, Friday, June the 7th, on Broadway from 8 to 8:45 a.m. I posted the link on my Instagram account for you to sign up if you want to be a part of Worth and the crew's CMA Fest workout. It's a great time. I would go, but I am on the air at 10 a.m. and to go to Broadway at 8 a.m. and to try to get off Broadway before the radio show, back home, showered, and then to the radio show, I'm already pushing it as far as my lateness is concerned to begin with. So I will not be able to be there on Friday, but it will be a great time downtown amidst the live music. And if you get your workout in, you want to go booze afterwards, you can do that at TrueMavFitness.com. You'll feel better about the booze that you consume over the weekend. Absolutely. Major Keys says he would get Harold Landry a pop-out cake with Bert inside of it. That sounds particularly disgusting and hairy. Stephen King says a strength and conditioning expert. Devin Mills says, I'm giving Honor Landry a judge's gavel, which is pretty good. Van Jeffrey says he would gift him an extra 10 sacks this year. Luman says I would get him a Lawrence Taylor VHS tape, which is a pretty funny thing. The thing that I would get Harold Landry is a trade. Not a trade out of here, not Harold Landry traded away from the Titans, but I would trade for an edge rusher in 2024 where the Titans have reasonable finances to work with, where the Titans have done precious little with their edge rushing group, and where the Titans, I think, could stand to improve, provided that Arden Key or Rashad Weaver doesn't claim a role full-time satisfactory before or throughout the course of the season. I, for Harold Landry's birthday, would trade for Matt Judon from the New England Patriots. He only played in 4 games last year in 2023 with a torn lower bicep that happened in week 4. But in those 4 games, he had 4 sacks, played in all but 1 game from 2021. In 2021 and 2022, he had 32 sacks and 33 tackles for loss in the last 3 years. He's got a cap hit of $14.6+ million, but the Titans can certainly afford it. He's 32 years old. But for the New England Patriots, who are probably looking to pick up draft assets and who I think a lot of teams would be interested in calling around the trade deadline, maybe this is a feud. Maybe Harold's got to wait, until September or October the 5th before I can get him his birthday present. But if I was the Titans, what I would get Harold Landry is Matt Judon as a running mate alongside him. I think it makes so much sense at this point. Vidal says a jet ski if Buck's paying. Stephen King says trade Willis and Burks for Judon. I hope that's a joke. Of course, nobody would do that deal. Danny Whitson says teams have to double team our middle, so Landry is going to be fine. Double team your middle based on what? You're assuming that T'Vondre Sweat is going to start, and that may be a safe assumption. They may be able to get him to playing weight, but until such time as T'Vondre Sweat earns a starting spot, who else are they doubling? They're doubling Jeff. They're going to be able to cover edge guys up if the only thing that you have to worry about on the Titans defense double teaming is Jeff. There is Harold and Jeff Simmons were a part of the worst third down defense in NFL history with the 2020 Titans. Now, you can blame the coaching staff if you want for that, but when they got better players in 2021, what happened? They were infinitely better as a defensive scheme. Now, Harold and Jeff were, of course, a part of that, and they are very high-level players. But if you think that Harold Landry is going to be fine just because you have Jeff Simmons and you're already penciling in T'Vondre Sweat for a job he hasn't earned yet, I think that's foolish to look at that way, because those players have already had a sample size of what it looks like when the two of them have to basically do it on their own. When Vic Beasley shit the bed and when Jadeveon Clowney played all of 8 games for the Tennessee Titans in the COVID season, Harold Landry and Jeff Simmons were not fine when it was just them on their own. And there's not another edge player that you trust right now in Tennessee to be a full-time starting player. There's not another defensive lineman that you trust to be a full-time starting player in Tennessee. If you want to project that that's Sweat, that's all well and good. But of course, it's ridiculous to look at Tennessee's front 7 right now and see any other proven commodities other than Jeff Simmons and Harold Landry. And 2 out of 7 is not an ideal situation for anybody to be projecting anything about how this Titans defensive front is going to work. I think there's reason to be optimistic because they've built it from the back to the front. And if you have the good coverage that they project to have, then you should be able to manage the situation. Because as I said, and I didn't really expand on this, corners are as important as edge rushers to me in 2024 in today's league, because with as quickly as the ball comes out, we've talked about this before, as quickly as the ball comes out, if you are able to jam the receiver when the ball is snapped, that's a faster way to get the quarterback out of rhythm if the wide receiver can't get into his route and the quarterback's having to hold the ball. That's the way faster way to affect the quarterback rather than for the edge guys to basically have to hustle and bust their ass, hoping that the interior guys have pushed the quarterback to the outside before the ball comes out in 2.5 seconds or less. So I would say that corners are as important as the edge guys, and that this is a good defense to kind of science experiment that theory a little bit. Chosen asks, will they sign an edge rusher? Oh, God, no. I hope not. The edge rushers out there aren't worth signing. They're not anything better than what you already have, and what you have is already pretty suspect, I would say. So, no, I don't believe that they would sign an edge rusher, nor do I have any inclination that they would trade for Matt Judon. But I think trading for Matt Judon makes a hell of a lot more sense than rolling with what you've got into 2024. And I think it makes a whole lot more sense than spending money on a washed-up pass rusher that you're looking to get 2 or 3 games of situational pass rush out of. Because what you need is a full-time starter. And Arden Key has yet to be that. Rashad Weaver has yet to be that. And both of them have had the opportunity to claim full-time starting roles. Weaver in 22, I think was 22. 22 was the season that Landry missed all of it. And Weaver played in I think almost every game. He had like 5.5 sacks. He wasn't good enough. Couldn't set the edge well enough. Couldn't rush the passer well enough. Arden Key has been a situational pass rusher throughout the course of his career, and I think last year was further evidence of that. Devin Mills says Murphy looks good too. Again, based on what? I have no idea what the hell you guys are talking about when you talk to me about anything to do with Caleb Murphy. Caleb Murphy's lone contribution during regular season play last year was a screw-up. I almost said a bad word, a screw-up on special teams. So there's nothing to indicate that Caleb Murphy looks like he's got some good weight on him and stuff like that. Devin Mills says, talking about videos. Yeah, why do I give a shit about OTA videos there are reasons to like the technical prowess that is being taught to the offensive line, to the edge rushers and the defensive line during OTAs. But sure as hell, I'm not going to extrapolate what that could mean for actual football in OTAs and mandatory minicamp. No, I think that's nonsensical. Now, do you like him as a sleeper? Sure. He may end up being to your point, Devin, he may end up being, because he says it's all we got, Buck. Jesus. Well, listen, I'm just trying to provide you some important context. Here's the thing. He may end up being the most important former UDFA on the roster this year because they don't have edge depth, and there will be opportunity to go out there and, claim situational roles, full-time starting roles besides Harold Landry, which is why I think the Judon trade makes the most sense. Brandon Connor says, Buck hating on Caleb Murphy. No, I'm hating on the idea that you're going to learn anything about your undrafted rookie free agent pass rush from special team screw-ups and a couple of mandatory minicamp videos. That's what I'm hating on, not Caleb Murphy. It's not Caleb Murphy's fault that people are extrapolating, mandatory minicamp videos as to what this guy might be as a pass rusher. That doesn't math to me at all, and nor should it to you, because I don't think it's the best way to evaluate it. Now, if you want to cite specific examples of where you see him technically improving, then I might hear you out. But yeah, the idea that, mandatory minicamp videos are the thing that's going to make me feel infinitely better about Caleb Murphy in 2024. That doesn't make sense to me. All right. Brian Cromer says, don't sleep on Rand. We may get a post-June 1 edge, still time, Buck. Yeah, but those dudes, nobody got released or that wasn't already designated as a post-June 1 release that is going to be out there. Teams could always use more offensive linemen, more edge rushers, and more corners. Those are the three positions beyond quarterback that I think every team could use more of at any given point. So, sure, maybe, but I would not expect any kind of like meaningful signing to happen much more before training camp at this point. If it hasn't already happened and there's not been a lot of noise around it, now just because there's not a lot of noise around it doesn't mean that they're working in the background. Hell, the Calvin Ridley deal came together the way that they describe it in about 12 hours. So something's always possible. But to date, I have heard precious little about them bringing in additional players before training camp or much before training camp because, vets don't want to deal with mandatory minicamp if they don't have to. Anyway, that is going to... So, I think Matt Judon makes a lot of sense for a birthday present for Harold Landry, though the logistics of that is something that the Titans would have to figure out if they think they're any kind of close to legitimate contention. And I think there's reason to believe that they might be a bit frisky in 2024, but how realistic that is, enough to give up draft capital, that's a different conversation entirely, though I think a fair one to have. All right, rising and falling. Whose stock rose? Whose stock fell this week in sports? It's how we'll wrap up tonight. Let me know in the comment section on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. We'll discuss at length. I've got a good one for you. Rather, Bert's got a good one for you momentarily, right after I remind you that the Primetime program is made possible by the official real estate agent of the Nashville Predators, the best real estate agent in the business, Gary Ashton, and the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. Don't sell without the intel that beautiful bald man can provide to you. GaryAshton.com is where you go for your dream address without the stress and the intel edge you need to succeed, all at GaryAshton.com. So stock up, stock down. How do you feel about the whose stock rose, whose stock fell this week in sports? B. Friend says Will Levis stock down for throwing a football in the leg. So I didn't realize that happened today at practice. I got there a little late, doing the radio show and then having to go out to practice late so I could tape some interviews. So I didn't see Levis throw the ball in the lake, but Kaharski, when I showed up, was like, Buck, you should go get that ball out of the lake. And I didn't really understand what he was talking about until somebody gave me the context later on. So yeah, apparently he didn't have his best day, Will Levis, and one of the balls ended up in Amulet Lake, which God knows is full of geese shit and probably all manner of other venereal disease in that man-made cesspool that the Titans practice facility sits on a peninsula in the middle of. Anyway, so Will Levis stock down for throwing a football into the lake. That's a pretty good one. Brian Callahan, stock up for finally giving us an answer about Burks, a gunner on special teams, says Joseph. Yeah, that's a tough one. But it is absolutely so. I think that when you talk about stock up and stock down, it's impossible, or rising and falling. Falling is the first baseball player since Pete Rose to get indefinitely suspended from the sport. And his name is, oh, God help me, Tucupita Marcano, who was suspended indefinitely from the sport of baseball for betting on the sport.
Tucupita Marcano officially received a lifetime ban from Major League Baseball for gambling on Major League Baseball games. 4 other players, Andrew Saalfrank, who is a pitcher for the Diamondbacks, Michael Kelly, a pitcher for the Oakland A's, Jose Rodriguez, an infielder for the Philadelphia Phillies, and Jay Groom, who is a pitcher for the San Diego Padres, all received 1-year suspensions because they bet on those MLB games while they were in the minor leagues. That is the key distinction here. Marcano was betting a whole lot more, totaled around $150,000. All the other guys were, I believe, below $500 in total bets.
As we all know, MLB has these close gambling partners, clearly as part of this deal. Was, should you realize that someone with an account is associated with a baseball player, you need to let us know ASAP. And that is what has happened here.
None of the gambling activity was impacting play on the field. The 4 minor leaguers were not in the major leagues when they made these bets, and Tucupita Marcano was on the IL. MLB is taking such a strong stance here because the play on the field cannot be influenced by all the gambling that is happening around it.
Manfred's statement saying, "We have been clear that the privilege of playing in baseball comes with a responsibility to refrain from engaging in certain types of behavior that are legal for other people." And that's why we get here.
So that is courtesy of the Baseball Barbie cast, apparently. Tucupita Marcano and his indefinite suspension. What?
Let me tell you something. Let this man play baseball. He only won 4.3 of the bets that he placed. This dude was giving money to people. He was giving it away. Why are we kicking this guy out? A casino's going to hire this dude because he's that big of a loser. What? Come on. What is this? This is America. A man can't lose his money how he wants to. What are we doing?
Not when they're a professional athlete, Bert. No, that's the one place that a man cannot lose his money if he wants to. It's been outlined over and over again in every professional sport. It's the one place that you can't do it. You can do it literally anywhere else in your life. It is one of the dumbest. I almost cussed every time you pop on this broadcast. It makes me want to drop F-bombs, and there's definitely a correlation between that and the other. But the point is, it's the one place you can't do it, and these dumb athletes keep doing it.
Nah, I see it differently. He's just like me for real. This dude don't win shit. He does not win anything. Even if every bet that he won was a parlay, he would have lost money. It's like he's my long-lost betting brother. I can't wait to lose so much money next to God, I got to see his name to say it.
Tucupita Marcano.
There you go. Oh, you say it right one time and you're a proud. Yeah, I'm about cussed. I got to get out of here. Let my man go. Come on, man. Let him bet a little bit. What are we doing?
Get off my screen. That's Robert Walsh, upset that he had a shirt on here this evening. Stock down Tucupita Marcano and every other professional athlete that doesn't understand the one place they can't bet is in their place of business. Stephen King says, Bert, your smile is looking great. No, nobody actually believes that. Oh my God, the smiles that he's making at me right now are deeply uncomfortable, so much so that it makes me want to end the show. So that's going to do it for us tonight. Radio show tomorrow. Tony Pollard's on the radio show tomorrow, and we'll look forward to talking to the Titans running back 1A, 1B, 1C, whatever the case may be. Tony Pollard will talk to us in the noon hour. You'll look forward to that conversation. The newest install is out as of this morning. We had to tape it super early because Greg had a TV schedule later this afternoon. So that is available to you. We talked about Christian McCaffrey's deal, its impact on the running back market, and we deep dived into the Houston Texans and what it's going to take for the Titans to unseat them at the top of the AFC South in 2024. That's going to do it for us tonight. Have a great rest of your night. Tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. is when I'll talk to you next.
Go home! Go home! Go home! You're embarrassing Nashville! Go home!